She thought she was playing chess, but I was playing poker. The text message arrived at 11:47 p.m. on Halloween night, right as I was scraping fake red paint off my pirate costume in the bathroom mirror. I'm going on vacation with my ex. We just want closure. That's it. No explanation, no apology. Just 22 words that blew up my marriage like a pipe bomb in a mailbox. My name is Eddie Howren, and I used to think I knew my wife. I stared at the phone screen until the words burned into my retinas. Alyssa had been acting strange for months. Late gym sessions, hushed phone calls, that guilty smile she wore like cheap perfume. But this was a sucker punch I never saw coming. "Eddie, you okay in there?" Rick's voice echoed through the bathroom door. The Halloween party was still raging downstairs at his house. All fake laughter and real whiskey. I could hear Alyssa's voice cutting through the noise. Probably still wearing that black Catwoman suit that left nothing to the imagination. "Yeah, just peachy," I muttered, splashing cold water on my face. The pirate in the mirror looked like he'd been keel-hauled. 8 hours ago, I was Eddie Howren, home security consultant, happily married for 8 years. Now I was Eddie Howren, professional fool. I walked downstairs and found my wife in the kitchen leaning against the counter with Derek Cross. He was dressed as Tarzan, all muscles and ego, married to Sousa's supposed best friend since childhood. They were standing too close, talking too quietly. And when they saw me, they jumped apart like teenagers caught smoking behind the gym. "Hey, babe," Alyssa said, her voice honey-sweet and poison-thick. Derek was just telling me about his new workout routine. I bet he was. I looked Derek straight in his steroid-pumped eyes. "Lifting more than weights these days, are we?" Derek's jaw tightened, but he forced a laugh. "Just trying to stay in shape, Eddie. You know how it is." "Actually, I don't." I grabbed a beer from the cooler, twisted off the cap with more force than necessary. See, when I make commitments, I stick to them. Old-fashioned that way. The tension in the kitchen was thick enough to cut with a machete. Alyssa's green eyes flashed warning signals, but I was past caring about her comfort level. "Eddie, can we talk?" she said, grabbing my arm. "Sure, let's talk about closure." I held up my phone, showing her text message. Interesting choice of words. Her face went white beneath the Catwoman mask. Derek suddenly found the ceiling very interesting. "I can explain." "I'm sure you can. You always were creative." I finished my beer in 3 long swallows. "But here's the thing, Alyssa. I'm a security consultant. I noticed things like how you've been texting someone named D for the past 2 months, or how you started wearing new underwear that I never saw, or how you suddenly developed a passion for Tuesday night yoga, classes that don't exist." Derek cleared his throat. "Maybe I should stay right there, Tarzan." My voice had that edge I used to get in the boxing ring back, when I solved problems with my fists instead of my brain. "We're all friends here, right? No secrets among friends." Alyssa's hand trembled as she reached for her wine glass. "Eddie, you're making a scene." "No, sweetheart. A scene is what happens when I start telling everyone at this party about your little vacation plans. What we're having now is just a conversation." The kitchen fell silent, except for the distant sound of Monster Mash playing in the living room. Through the doorway, I could see other party guests in their costumes. Zombies, vampires, superheroes, all of them pretending to be something they weren't. At least they were honest about it. "Look," Derek said, puffing out his chest, "there's no need to get hostile." "Hostile?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Derek, you haven't seen Hostile yet, but keep pushing and you might get a demonstration." That's when Suze walked into the kitchen dressed as the other Catwoman. Apparently, she and Alyssa had coordinated their costumes. "How cute." "What's going on?" she asked, looking between the 3 of us. "Just discussing travel plans," I said. "Your husband here is quite the vacation advisor." Suze's eyes narrowed. She was sharp as a razor blade and twice as cutting when she wanted to be. "Derek, what is he talking about?" "Nothing, babe. Just guy talk, right? Guy talk." I set my empty beer bottle on the counter with a sharp clink. The kind where guys talk about taking other men's wives on romantic getaways. The kitchen exploded into chaos. Sue started yelling at Derek. Alyssa started yelling at me, and Derek started making excuses that convinced nobody. I stood in the middle of it all, watching my marriage disintegrate in real time, and felt something cold and calculating settle in my chest. I'd spent 15 years in the security business, protecting other people's property, other people's secrets, other people's lives. Time to start protecting my own interests. "You know what?" I said loud enough to cut through the shouting. Enjoy your vacation, Alyssa. Hope you find all the closure you're looking for. I walked out of the kitchen through the living room full of costumed strangers and out into the October night. Behind me, I could hear the argument escalating, voices rising like a house fire. My phone buzzed with another text from Alyssa. Where are you going? We need to talk. I typed back, closure costs extra, sweetheart. Send me a postcard. Then I drove home to start planning my revenge. The next morning, I canceled the hotel reservation in Cabo that I'd booked as a surprise for our anniversary. Alyssa didn't know about it. I'd planned to tell her that evening. Instead, I got a refund and used the money to hire my sister Molly, who ran a digital investigation service downtown. So let me get this straight, Molly said, sitting in my kitchen with her laptop and a cup of coffee that could strip paint. Your wife is cheating with your friend's husband, and now she wants to go on vacation with some ex-boyfriend for closure. That's the executive summary. Molly was 29, 5'9", and had the moral flexibility of a yoga instructor. When it came to information gathering, she'd helped me with background checks for security clients before, always staying just inside the legal lines. What do you want me to find? Everything. Phone records, social media, financial transactions. I want to know what she had for breakfast and who she called to complain about it. That's going to cost you. Bill me. While Molly worked her magic, I did what I did best. I watched and waited. 20 years of boxing had taught me patience. 15 years in security had taught me observation. And 8 years of marriage had taught me that my wife was a terrible liar when she was nervous. Alyssa came home that afternoon with red eyes and a story about having the flu. She'd been too sick to come home the night before, so she'd stayed at Jen's house. Jen was her confidant, a nurse who loved drama more than medicine. How was the party after I left? I asked, not looking up from my newspaper. Fine, people asked where you went. What did you tell them? That you weren't feeling well? I nodded. Considerate of you. Very thoughtful. She hovered in the doorway like a guilty ghost. Eddie, about that text message? What about it? I think we should talk. I think we should too. I folded the newspaper and looked at her directly. When's your flight, my what? Your vacation with your ex for closure? I kept my voice level, conversational. When do you leave? She fidgeted with her wedding ring. I haven't booked anything yet. Well, when you do, let me know. I'll drive you to the airport. The confusion on her face was almost comical. She'd expected anger, maybe violence. Instead, she got cooperation. It threw her off balance, which was exactly where I wanted her. That evening, while Alyssa was at her yoga class, Molly called with the first batch of information. Your wife's been busy, she said. Phone records showed daily calls to Derek Cross for the past 6 weeks. Also, someone's been using her credit card at a motel on Route 9, the Pineview Inn. Classy establishment. How classy? They rent rooms by the hour. I wrote down the address. What about the ex-boyfriend? That's where it gets interesting. Marcus Webb, that's his name. Lives in Phoenix now, married with 2 kids. I called his office pretending to be a travel agent confirming his vacation, package to Mexico, and he's never heard of any vacation. In fact, he seemed pretty confused about why someone would think he was traveling with his ex-girlfriend. The pieces clicked into place like a combination lock. There was no ex-boyfriend vacation. It was Derek. It had always been Derek. She's planning to run away with him, I said. Looks that way. I found some interesting bank activity, too. She's been moving money from your joint account to a personal savings account you probably don't know about. How much money? $12,000 over the past 3 months. I felt that cold calculation settling deeper into my chest. Alyssa wasn't just cheating. She was stealing, planning her exit strategy while pretending to be the loving wife. Keep digging, I told Molly. I want to know everything. The next day, Alyssa announced she'd booked her closure vacation for the following weekend. She'd be gone for 5 days. She even showed me the fake confirmation email she'd created, complete with flight numbers and hotel information. That's wonderful, I said. I'm happy you're getting the closure you need. She looked at me like I'd grown a second head. You're not angry? Why would I be angry? Marriage is about trust, right? If you say you need closure with your ex, then I trust your judgment. What I didn't tell her was that I'd already called the airport. There was no flight to Phoenix under her name, no hotel reservation, nothing. Friday morning, I helped her load her suitcase into her car. She was nervous. chattering about the weather and traffic and anything else that popped into her head. "Have a safe trip," I said, kissing her cheek. "Send me pictures." "I will." I watched her drive away, then got in my truck and followed at a distance. She didn't go to the airport. She went to the Pine View Inn where Derek's pickup truck was already waiting in the parking lot. I sat in my truck across the street and watched them carry their luggage into room 237. Then I drove home and waited for the show to begin. At 3 p.m., Alyssa texted me a picture of an airport gate with the message, "Boarding now. Love you." The picture was from Google Images. I knew because I'd done a reverse image search. I texted back, "Have fun and can't wait to hear all about it when you get back." Then I called the Pine View Inn and asked to speak to the guest in room 237. "Hello." Derek's voice was cautious. "Derek, it's Eddie Howren. I know you're there with my wife." Silence. "I'm not calling to threaten you," I continued. "I'm calling to make you a deal." "What kind of deal?" "The kind where you don't lose your job, your wife doesn't divorce you, and your teenage son doesn't find out his father is a cheating piece of garbage." More silence. "I'm listening," he said finally. "Good. Here's what's going to happen. The beauty of being in the security business is that you learn how to think like a criminal while staying on the right side of the law. You also learn that most people are incredibly predictable when they're scared." Derek Cross was scared. "You want me to what?" His voice cracked like a teenager asking someone to prom. His voice cracked like a teenager asking someone to prom. "I want you to disappear," I said, still sitting in my truck outside the motel. "Leave the room, go home. Tell Alyssa the vacation is canceled because you got cold feet. She'll end me." "That's your problem. My problem is that my wife thinks she's smarter than me. I'd like to correct that misconception. And if I don't? I've been waiting for that question." "Then I call your wife and tell her where you are. Then I call your boss at the factory and tell him you've been using company time to plan your affair. I've got phone records showing you called Alyssa 17 times during work hours last week. Then I call your son Kyle and explain why Daddy won't be living at home anymore." The silence stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. "You're bluffing," he said finally. "Derek, I make my living by knowing things other people don't want me to know. I know you've been skimming overtime hours. I know you've been using your company credit card for personal expenses. I know you told your wife you were working late last Tuesday when you were actually at the Riverside Motel with my wife. Should I continue?" "Jesus Christ, he's not taking calls today." "Just me, I checked my watch. You got 30 minutes to pack up and leave. If you're not gone by 4 hours, I start making phone calls." I hung up and drove to a coffee shop where I could see the motel parking lot. At 3:47 p.m., Derek came out of room 237, carrying his suitcase and looking like a man walking to his own execution. He threw his bag in the truck and peeled out of the parking lot like his ass was on fire. 15 minutes later, Alyssa came out of the room, looked around the empty parking lot, and started making frantic phone calls. I ordered another coffee and watched the show. My phone rang at 4:23 p.m., Alyssa crying. "Eddie, something terrible happened." "What's wrong, honey?" I used my most concerned husband voice. "My flight got canceled and now Marcus isn't answering his phone, and I'm stuck at the airport with no way to get to Phoenix." "Oh no, that's awful. Where are you now?" "I'm at the airport bar. I don't know what to do." She was lying, of course. She was still at the Pine View Inn, probably sitting on the bed that still smelled like Derek's cologne and her broken dreams. "Do you want me to come get you?" I asked. "No, I think I'm going to get a hotel room near the airport and try to catch a flight tomorrow." "That sounds like a good plan. Keep me posted." I hung up and drove home to prepare for phase 2 of my revenge. The next morning, Molly called with more intelligence. "I've been monitoring Derek's social media," she said. "He posted a picture last night from Murphy's bar with the caption, 'Sometimes you gotta know when to fold,'" his wife Suze commented, asking what that meant. But he never responded. "What about Alyssa?" Radio silence, no posts, no check-ins, nothing. But I did some digging on their financial situation. Derek's in deep debt, credit cards maxed out, behind on his truck payments. He even owes money to his bookie. His bookie? Apparently he's got a gambling problem. Horses mostly. Lost big on the Kentucky Derby. The picture was getting clearer. Derek wasn't just cheating with my wife. He was probably planning to use her as his financial escape route. The money she'd been stealing from our joint account was probably funding his habit. There's more. Molly continued. I found out why Alyssa really wanted to leave town. She's been embezzling from the gym where she works. Small amounts, but it adds up. About $15,000 over the past year. Now that was interesting. My wife wasn't just a cheater and a liar. She was also a thief and not a very good one, apparently. How'd you find that out? I have a friend who does the books for the gym. She's been noticing discrepancies, but hasn't reported it yet because she likes Alyssa. Not anymore, I'm guessing. My friend's pretty upset about being lied to. She might be willing to cooperate if someone wanted to expose the truth. I thought about that. Alyssa's whole life was built on lies and stolen money. Her job, her marriage, her affair, all of it was fraud. She thought she was playing chess while I was playing checkers. Time to show her I'd been playing poker all along. Sunday evening, Alyssa came home looking like she'd been hit by a truck. Her vacation clothes were wrinkled. Her makeup was smeared. And she had that hollow-eyed look of someone who'd been crying for days. How was Phoenix? I asked, not looking up from my newspaper. Fine, good. Really therapeutic? That's great, honey. I'm glad you got the closure you needed. She hovered in the doorway, clearly expecting questions, accusations, something. Instead, she got nothing. Marcus says hi, she added weakly. That's nice. Tell him I said thanks for taking such good care of you. The confusion on her face was delicious. She'd prepared for a fight and gotten a tea party instead. That night, while she was in the shower, I went through her suitcase. The clothes were clean. She'd never worn them. The toiletries were unused. Even her toothbrush was dry. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. We need to talk. I texted back, no we don't. Stay away from my wife. Stay away from me, and maybe you'll keep your job. He responded immediately. She's crazy, man. She tried to get me to rob a bank. I stared at the message. Rob a bank? That seemed extreme even for Alyssa. I called Derek from the garage where Alyssa couldn't hear me. What do you mean, rob a bank? I asked without preamble. Not literally, but she wanted me to help her clean out your business accounts. Said you had over $100,000 just sitting there and you said I said heck no. I'm not going to prison for her crazy schemes. Smart choice. Eddie, I'm sorry about all this. I never meant for it to go this far. Sure you did. You just didn't mean to get caught. She's not who I thought she was. The things she said about you, the plans she had. What kind of plans? Derek was quiet for a moment. She wanted me to help her disappear. New identities, new city, new life. She had it all figured out. Using my money and your muscle. Yeah. And when I said no, she went psycho. Started screaming about how I'd ruined everything. How she'd given up her whole life for me. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Derek, here's some free advice. Stay away from my wife. If she contacts you, don't respond. If she shows up at your work, call security. If she threatens you, call the police. You think she'd do that? I think she's desperate, and desperate people do stupid things. I hung up and went back inside. Alyssa was in bed pretending to be asleep. I could tell by her breathing that she was wide awake, probably planning her next move. That was okay. I was planning mine too. Monday morning, I did something I'd never done in 8 years of marriage. I called in sick to work and followed my wife. She left the house at 8:30 a.m. supposedly, heading to the gym for her morning classes. Instead, she drove to the First National Bank downtown and spent 45 minutes inside. Then she went to a coffee shop and spent another 30 minutes there. After that, she drove to a lawyer's office. By noon, I had a pretty good idea what she was planning. I called my own lawyer, Paula Martinez, who'd handled the legal work when I started my security business. Eddie, good to hear from you. What can I do for you? I need to protect my assets today. What's going on? My wife is planning to divorce me and take everything she can get her hands on. I need to make sure she can't clean out my business accounts or sell any property without my signature. How do you know she's planning this? I told Paula about the affair, the fake vacation, the embezzlement from the gym, and Alyssa's visit to the lawyer's office that morning. Bring me everything, Paula said. Bank statements, business records, property deeds, insurance policies, everything. And Eddie, do it today. If she's planning to file first, we need to beat her to the courthouse. I spent the afternoon gathering documents while Alyssa was at work. By evening, Paula had filed a legal aid separation petition that froze all our joint accounts and prevented either of us from selling or transferring any major assets without court approval. She's going to be furious, Paula warned me. Good. Angry people make mistakes. I was right. When Alyssa got home that night and tried to use her debit card to order dinner, it was declined. She tried 3 more cards before she figured out what had happened. "What did you do?" she screamed, storming into the living room where I was watching the news. I protected my interests. "You froze our accounts, I froze my accounts. You're welcome to use your own money." Her face went white. "Eddie, this is crazy. We can work this out." "Can we? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've been working things out for months without me." She tried tears next. "I made a mistake. The thing with Derek, it didn't mean anything. What about the thing with embezzling from your job?" She went very still. "What are you talking about?" $15,000 Alyssa skimmed from the gym's accounts over the past year. "Did that mean anything?" "I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled out my phone and showed her the bank records Molly had obtained. "Your friend who does the books? She's not your friend anymore." Alyssa collapsed into a chair like a marionette with cut strings. "How did you find out?" "I'm a professional investigator, sweetheart. It's what I do." "Eddie, please. I can explain everything." "I'm sure you can. Save it for your lawyer." That night she tried a different approach. She came to bed wearing the lingerie I'd bought her for Valentine's Day and attempted to seduce me back into stupidity. When that didn't work, she tried guilt. When guilt failed, she went back to anger. "You're destroying our marriage over nothing," she yelled. "I'm not destroying anything. I'm just refusing to pay for the demolition." The next morning, Alyssa's lawyer called Paula to arrange a meeting. Apparently, my wife wanted to negotiate. "What kind of negotiation?" I asked Paula. "The desperate kind. She's offering to give back the money she stole from the gym in exchange for a generous divorce settlement. And if I refuse, then she'll claim you were threatening and try to get a restraining order." I laughed. "Good luck with that. I've got security cameras in every room of the house. If I was threatening, there'd be video evidence. She knows about the cameras. She helped me install them." Paula was quiet for a moment. "Eddie, what exactly are you planning?" "Justice." That afternoon I got a call from Rick, who'd hosted the Halloween party where this whole mess started. "Eddie, I need to tell you something," he said. "Suzcross came to see me today." "Derek's wife?" "Yeah, she knows about the affair. She's planning to leave Derek and take their son, but she's also planning to sue you." "Sue me for what?" "Alienation of affection. She claims you knew about the affair and didn't tell her, which allowed it to continue and caused her emotional distress." I sat down heavily. "That's insane." "Maybe, but it's legal in this state. She's got a lawyer who thinks she can get damages from both you and Alyssa." "What does she want? Money?" "A lot of it. She's looking at your business assets and thinking she can get a piece of the pie." I felt the walls closing in. Alyssa was trying to steal from me in the divorce. Suze was trying to sue me for not stopping the affair. Derek was probably planning his own legal strategy. Time for the nuclear option. I called Molly and told her to release everything she'd found to the appropriate authorities. The embezzlement evidence went to Alyssa's boss at the gym. Derek's overtime fraud went to his supervisor at the factory. The gambling debts went to his wife's lawyer. "You sure about this?" Molly asked. "Once this stuff gets out, there's no taking it back." "I'm sure. Burn it all down." Within 24 hours, Alyssa was fired from her job and facing criminal charges. Derek was suspended pending investigation and thrown out of his house by Suze. The lawyer, representing Suze, suddenly lost interest in her case when he realized she'd married a broke criminal. But I wasn't done yet. Thursday evening, I came home to find Alyssa packing boxes in the bedroom. "Going somewhere?" I asked. "My mother's house. Until this gets sorted out, that's probably for the best." She turned to face me, and for the first time since this started, she looked genuinely defeated. "Why are you doing this to me?" "I'm not doing anything to you, Alyssa. I'm just not protecting you from the consequences of your choices anymore. We could have worked this out privately. We didn't need lawyers and courts and all this drama." "You're right. We could have worked it out privately 8 months ago when you first started cheating, or 6 months ago when you started stealing, or 4 months ago when you started planning to run away with Derek. But you chose drama instead of honesty. This is what drama looks like." She finished packing in silence. As she carried the last box to her car, she stopped and looked back at me. "I did love you, Eddie, at the beginning." "I know," I said. That's what makes this so sad. After she drove away, I poured myself a whiskey and sat on the porch, watching the sunset over the neighborhood where I thought I was building a life with someone I could trust. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. She's completely lost it. Showed up at my work screaming about how we're all going to pay for ruining her life. I texted back, not my problem anymore. But I was wrong. It was about to become my problem in a very big way. Friday night, I was in my garage working on an old motorcycle when the security alarm went off. The motion sensors had detected someone in the backyard. I grabbed my phone and checked the camera feeds. Alyssa was standing by the back door and she wasn't alone. Derek was with her along with two men I didn't recognize. One of them was holding a crowbar. I called emergency first, then grabbed the baseball bat I kept in the garage. "Police are on the way," I announced loudly as I walked toward the back door. "You've got about 5 minutes to leave before this becomes a felony." "Open the door, Eddie," Alyssa shouted. "We need to talk." "We can talk through the lawyers. I want my stuff." "Your stuff is in storage. Your lawyer has the address." Derek stepped forward. "Just open the door, man. We're not here to cause trouble." "Then why did you bring friends with crowbars?" One of the strangers spoke up. "Derek owes us money. His wife said you're loaded. We're here to collect." So that was the play. Derek had convinced Alyssa to help him rob me to pay off his gambling debts, and she'd been desperate enough to agree. "How much does he owe you?" I called out. 20 grand. "Derek," I shouted. "You hear that? 20,000? That's a lot of overtime fraud." The man with the crowbar moved toward the door. "Enough talking. Open up or we'll open it for you." That's when the first police car pulled into my driveway, lights flashing. The two strangers ran immediately, vaulting over the back fence and disappearing into the night. Derek stood frozen like a deer in headlights. Alyssa started crying. Officer Landry, who'd been patrolling this neighborhood for 15 years, walked into the backyard with his hand on his tool. "Evening, Eddie. Got a report of suspicious activity." "Evening, Frank." My ex-wife and her boyfriend brought some friends to help them break into my house. Frank looked at Derek and Alyssa, then at the crowbar lying on the ground. "That true?" "We just wanted to talk," Alyssa said through her tears. "Eddie won't answer our calls. So you brought a crowbar to help with the conversation?" Derek finally found his voice. "This is all a misunderstanding." "The misunderstanding," I said, "is thinking I'd be stupid enough to let them rob me to pay off Derek's gambling debts." Frank's eyebrows went up. "Gambling debts? $20,000 to some very unfriendly people who just ran away when you showed up." Frank called for backup and spent the next hour taking statements. By the time he was done, Derek was in handcuffs facing charges for attempted burglary and criminal trespass. Alyssa was released with a warning, but only because she hadn't actually touched the crowbar. "This isn't over," she told me as Derek was loaded into the police car. "Yes, it is," I replied. "You just don't know it yet." Saturday morning, I got a call from Derek's wife. "Suze, I heard what happened last night," she said. "News travels fast. Eddie, I owe you an apology. I was so angry about the affair that I wanted to blame everyone except Derek. But after what he did to you, I realize he's been lying to me about everything. People do stupid things when they're hurt. I'm dropping the lawsuit, and I want to help you make sure Derek and your wife pay for what they've done." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I've got 8 years of Derek's financial records, including all his gambling losses and the money he stole from his company. I also have recordings of phone calls between him and Alyssa, where they plan to rob you. Recordings. I've been suspicious for months. I put a voice recorder in his truck, Suze. That might not be legal evidence. Maybe not in court, but it would be very interesting to the police. Don't you think?" I thought about it. Derek was already facing criminal charges. The recordings would just add to his problems. "And if Alyssa was on those recordings planning the robbery, send me copies," I said. Sunday afternoon, I was mowing the lawn when a car pulled up to the curb. Alyssa got out, but she didn't come toward the house. Instead, she stood by the mailbox waiting. I finished the section I was working on and walked over to her. "What do you want, Alyssa?" She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes were wrinkled, and she had dark circles under her eyes. "I want to make a deal," she said. "I'm listening. I'll plead guilty to the embezzlement charges and pay back every penny. I'll sign whatever divorce papers you want." And I won't ask for alimony or property settlement. I'll even testify against Derek if it helps his case. In exchange for what? Don't press charges for last night. Let me walk away with my dignity intact. I studied her face. She was broken, desperate, clinging to the last shreds of her old life. Your dignity, I said. Alyssa, you lost your dignity when you started cheating. You lost it when you started stealing. You lost it when you brought thugs to my house to rob me. There's no dignity left to protect. Please, Eddie, I'm begging you. You should have thought about this 8 months ago. I turned and walked back to the lawnmower. I'll destroy you, she screamed after me. I'll tell everyone you were threatening. I'll ruin your business. I'll make sure you never work in this town again. I stopped and looked back at her. Go ahead. I've got 8 months of security camera footage showing exactly how threatening I was. I've got bank records showing how you stole from me. I've got phone records showing your affair. I've got witness statements about your embezzlement. What do you have, Alyssa? What cards are you holding that you think can beat that hand? She stood there for a long moment, tears streaming down her face. Then she got back in her car and drove away. I never saw her again. Monday morning, Paula called with the final details. Derek took a plea deal, she said. 18 months for attempted burglary, plus restitution for the company theft. Alyssa's pleading guilty to embezzlement and will serve 6 months in county jail plus community service. What about the divorce? Uncontested. She's signing over all claims to marital property in exchange for you not pursuing additional charges related to the robbery attempt. You keep the house, the business, everything, and the money she stole from me. She'll pay it back as part of her restitution. It might take a while, but you'll get every penny. I hung up and walked out to my back porch. The October air was crisp and clean, and the leaves were turning brilliant shades of red and gold. Somewhere in the distance I could hear children playing. Their laughter carried on the wind. My phone buzzed with a text from Rick, heard the news. Justice served. Want to grab a beer and celebrate? I typed back, rain check. I'm enjoying the quiet, and I was. For the first time in months, my house was truly mine. No lies, no deception, no hidden agendas, just peace. I sat down in my favorite chair and opened a book I'd been trying to read for weeks. The silence was golden. My phone rang one more time. Unknown number. Hello, Mr. Howren. This is Detective Morrison with the State Police. We understand you have some recordings that might be relevant to a case we're working on. What kind of case? Organized gambling and loan sharking. The 2 men who were at your house Friday night. They're connected to a much larger operation. We'd like to talk to you about what you know. I smiled. Even from jail, Derek was still causing problems for everyone around him. Detective, I'd be happy to help. When would you like to meet? As it turned out, Derek's gambling problem was just the tip of the iceberg. The people he owed money to were running an illegal gambling ring that stretched across 3 states. My security cameras had captured their faces and Suze's. Recordings had captured their voices making threats. Within 6 months, the whole operation was shut down and Derek's sentence was extended to 5 years for his cooperation in a federal case. Alyssa served her 6 months and moved to another state. I heard through mutual friends that she was working as a waitress and living in a studio apartment. She'd lost her house, her car, her job, her husband, and most of her friends. All for a man who sold her out the moment things got difficult. As for me, I kept the house, expanded my business, and learned to enjoy my own company. I dated occasionally, but I was in no hurry to remarry. Trust once broken takes a long time to repair. One evening, almost a year after the divorce was finalized, I was having dinner at a restaurant downtown when I saw a familiar face at the bar. Suz Cross looking happy and relaxed in a way I'd never seen before. I walked over and said, "Hello, Eddie, how are you?" "Good, you look great." "I feel great. Divorced life agrees with me." She raised her wine, glass to freedom from lying spouses. "I'll drink to that." We talked for an hour about our new lives, our kids. She had custody of Kyle and our plans for the future. She was working as a paralegal now and taking night classes to become a lawyer. I want to help other people who've been screwed over by cheating spouses, she said. Cheating spouses, she said. Turn my experience into something useful. That's a great idea. What about you? Any plans to get back out there? I thought about it. Maybe someday. Right now, I'm just enjoying the peace and quiet. I understand that after all the drama, quiet sounds pretty good. We parted ways that night as friends. 2 people who'd survived the wreckage of broken marriages and come out stronger on the other side. Driving home, I thought about the events of the past year. The betrayal, the investigation, the revenge, the legal battles, the final resolution. It had been painful, expensive, and exhausting, but it had also been necessary. Some people think revenge is about getting even. They're wrong. Revenge is about getting justice when the system fails you. It's about making sure that people who hurt you face consequences for their actions. Alyssa and Derek thought they were smarter than me. They thought they could lie and steal and cheat without paying a price. They were wrong. In the end, they lost everything and I kept what was mine. That's not revenge. That's justice.